What do you do when you don't have enough pixels to make a print as large as you want without significant loss in quality? This is not an issue of camera resolution, since most digital cameras nowadays provide plenty of pixels. We're talking about the radical crop, when you zoom into a small part of an image and throw away the rest. In this video, you'll learn the best way to upsample or add pixels for the best results. Lightroom has always done a good job upsampling images. In fact, I'd argue that many times it does a better job than Photoshop. Well, with Photoshop CC, that's changed. Photoshop's newly improved resizing capabilities clearly come out ahead, making it worth the extra time it takes to open your cropped image in Photoshop and do the upsampling there. Let's upsample an image in Photoshop and then upsample it in Lightroom and compare. Here's a real-world example. It's a shot of beehives hanging precariously on the side of a steep cliff in Nepal's Bung Valley. Even though this photo was shot with a 38 megapixel camera, I didn't have a long enough zoom to fill the frame with the beehives. So let's make a radical crop and fill the frame with just the beehives. I'm going to select the crop overlay tool here in the Lightroom Develop module, and I'm going to crop right in here to the beehives. Can barely see them until I crop, and then I'll hit the return key, and now you can see the beehives clearly. Now I'm going to take this image into Photoshop and use Photoshop's new resizing capabilities. I'm going to right click, edit in, and let's go to Photoshop CC. All right, to get to the resizing tool in Photoshop, you select image and then image size. If you're familiar with earlier versions of Photoshop, the first change you will notice is the preview window. You can now preview the effect of resizing in real time. Use the zoom controls at the bottom to zoom in or out. The first thing I'll do is type in a new dimension. I'm going to make this 17 inches wide. And since the width and height are linked, the height will be filled in automatically. I'll leave the resolution to its default setting of 240. And you'll notice here under resample, this is automatically checked because obviously I am now resampling to get the new size. Now, normally by default, automatic will come up. And when it's set to automatic, Photoshop will automatically choose the best sampling method depending on whether you're upsampling or downsampling. It knows. I'm going to go ahead and select Preserve Details Enlargement because you see down below this reduced noise slider appears when I choose this manually. Now, if I had left it at automatic, it would have chosen that on its own. I just wouldn't have gotten the option to reduce noise. Now, as far as a reduced noise slider goes, this is a great way to get rid of some of the noise, but it's also a great way to mess up the resampling because if you go too far with this, obviously you soften the image. So let me go ahead and bring that back down. You want to find the right place where you're getting rid of the noise, but you're not softening the image too much. Now, just to give you an idea of how Photoshop used to work, I'm going to show you how the old version worked, which was using bicubic smoother enlargement. And then I'm going to go back to the new method. Look at the difference. Just by using a new algorithm, Photoshop is preserving the details much better. Okay, when you're finished, you go ahead and select OK. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and save this, which will, you can see up here, the saving process is done. I'm going to go over to Lightroom, and I'm going to now export this image out from Lightroom as a TIFF with the same parameters as the Photoshop TIFF, and we're going to compare those side by side and see how they look. To do that, I just go File, Export, and let me go ahead and give this a new file name, for Lightroom Resampled, just so I know which is which. And then scroll down, it's going to be a TIFF, and it's Pro RGB, just like the other file, and 16 bits. So we'll just leave that at 17, or we'll set that to 17, resolution 240. Here's the important part. We want to be sure it opens in Photoshop CC. We could do that manually, but this saves us a step. I'm going to go ahead and hit Export, and that's going to open that Lightroom-generated TIFF in Photoshop. And we have both of them open, and you can see going back and forth, but this is not a real easy way to compare. So I'm going to go up under Window and select Arrange, and then 2 up vertical. Now they're side by side, but I want to match the resolution. So I'll go under Window, Arrange, Match All. Okay. And now if I come over to this window and hold down the space bar and the Shift key, I can move the images around as if they're linked. They are linked this way. And if I want to enlarge an image, and I'm going to go ahead and do that by using Command plus. Let me go up a little bit so I can see it better. I'm using the space bar now. And let me get right there, and I'm going to sync them up again by hitting Arrange and Match All. And now let's take a look at it. We have the image on the left, which is the Lightroom resampled image, and then the image over here on the right, which was the one that's resampled using the new Photoshop feature. I mean, it's so clear to me which is better, and these are using exactly the same parameters, and the Photoshop upsampling or resampling has just been is much better than what I'm looking at here over on the left with the Lightroom sampling. Now, that's not to say that Lightroom hasn't done a good job. I just think Photoshop has done a fantastic job. Well, I think it's quite obvious. Photoshop's new Preserve Details feature did a much better job. I know what I'll be doing now when I need a large print from a radical crop.